Now I feel disrespect.
Right.
You feel what I'm saying? Because it's like, damn, that guy's a man, my nigga. Come on. Don't say money.
Everybody do it for free, Ross. First of all, you know it love. Second of all, I got to call a spade when it's a spade.
Rick Ross is vehemently pushing back against DC Young Fly after the comedian released what has been termed an industry ritual receipt linked to Jonathan Audi. The entire situation is rapidly transforming into what feels more like a witch hunt than a typical internet controversy. DC Young Fly essentially put Ross on the spot. With timestamps now circulating, people online are connecting details that were reportedly visible all along. Suddenly, attention is being drawn to the podcast walkout, strange late-night gatherings, and exclusive, invite-only parties featuring an all-white theme. It appears people have finally recognized a pattern. The dynamic surrounding this situation shifts quickly when recalling Jonathan Audi's 2018 claims regarding Ross and Diddy allegedly having a hidden, behind-the-scenes arrangement. What was once dismissed as minor podcast drama or leaked party footage now feels like a crucial component of a much more intricate and dramatic narrative. Ross's current response only intensifies the pressure, adding another chapter to a storyline that has been developing in the background while many chose to ignore it. To understand the current tension, one must revisit the moment that first dominated online conversation, when Ross, also known as Officer Ricky, abruptly walked out of the 85 South show. The 85 South show, hosted by DC Young Fly, Carlos Miller, and Chico Bean, is a prominent fixture in comedy and hip-hop culture. The hosts are known for their unfiltered commentary. Ross initially appeared relaxed, joking, and discussing his music, businesses, and lifestyle. The atmosphere was smooth, he looked composed and entirely in control. Then, without warning, Ross stood up, claimed he needed to remove his jacket and use the restroom, and simply vanished. There was no real explanation, no heads up, and no quick signal. 1 second he was present, cool, and confident, and the next he slipped off camera as if the moment was inconsequential. DC Young Fly sat there, visibly shocked and somewhat stung by the sudden departure. Carlos and Chico also displayed a look of disbelief, silently questioning, "Hold up, did he really just walk out like that?" The entire mood flipped instantly. The room quickly went from a place of jokes and good energy to one that felt tight and uncomfortable. The reaction began rolling in immediately. DC Young Fly did not attempt to soften the reality. He straightforwardly called Ross's decision disrespectful. This was not just some random podcast. The 85 South show was built by 3 men who emerged from the same culture Ross professes to represent, and they established a platform for artists, comedians, and legends to genuinely connect with their fans. Therefore, when Ross abruptly left mid-conversation, it felt personal. Social media caught on rapidly. Clips, debates, and memes proliferated, with everyone chiming in with their own opinion on the incident.
Slippery soap. You know, I actually washed the car because I'm supporting my brother. I'm not just buying slippery soap. I'm actually using it myself. So, just stay tuned to see Diddy and Rose wash.
Some individuals defended Ross, while others felt the walkout was a major slight. Regardless, the incident dominated media conversation. Ross eventually addressed the walkout on The Breakfast Club, claiming he was smoked out in his zone and didn't realize how abrupt his departure looked. He stated he had love for DC Young Fly, Carlos Miller, and Chico Bean, referring to them as his little homies, and insisted the move was not intended as disrespect. He attempted to frame it as a matter of bad timing, not bad intentions. However, the situation quickly became complicated. Just hours later, Ross appeared for a comfortable, nearly 2-hour-long interview on a white-owned podcast. In that setting, there was no rushing off, no disappearing, and no confusion. He answered every question calmly and completely, with zero hesitation. This stark contrast ignited the real backlash. People weren't just angry about the walkout itself. They began questioning what made Ross comfortable enough to stay fully engaged on the other platform, but not with the 85 South show crew, a group rooted in his own culture. DC Young Fly called out Ross directly, asking why he could sit relaxed for 2 hours on another show but couldn't remain committed to his own people. He questioned why Ross would walk away from a platform that had been supporting him from the start. The perception of disrespect. Online observers quickly noted the same detail. Ross's excuse about a mental lapse suddenly failed to sound like the clean explanation he intended. It fueled speculation that something else was happening behind the scenes. Ross's team tried to contain the situation by citing scheduling issues, rushed flights, and timing problems, but DC, Carlos, and Chico didn't accept that narrative. For the hosts, the moment ceased to be about logistics. It became a public discussion about respect, loyalty, and how certain major figures treat homegrown platforms versus new or outside spaces. People stopped viewing the clip as a simple joke and started looking deeper, questioning how a figure of Ross's stature could treat a show rooted in his own community with less regard than a brand new platform outside that community. Replaying the interview with this context reveals a suspicious pattern. Ross initially appeared too relaxed and at home, making the sudden walkout feel intentionally abrupt in a way the audience couldn't articulate at the time. The awkward silence afterward, combined with DC's raw reaction, stacked up into something bigger than a simple misunderstanding. It exposed cracks in the public perception of Ross. After Ross left, DC Young Fly did not simply brush it off. He directly called out Ross's actions with a pointed comment. "I came for free." Don't worry about the analytics comments. This was a powerful reminder that Ross appeared to be downplaying the time, energy, and influence of the 85 South show. DC made it clear that their show is not a casual hangout. It is a genuine, culturally solid platform respected by artists who truly care about the community. He noted that figures like T.I., Snoop Dogg, Boosie, and Busta Rhymes had all appeared without demanding a check or making things complicated. They came because they respected what the show represents and understood that supporting the platform meant supporting the culture. Ross failed to show that same level of respect. A deeper layer to this conflict is that DC had already hinted at certain changes in Ross, suggesting the industry had altered him in ways unrelated to music or business. He kept his message subliminal but clear. Ross is at a career stage where protecting his brand and financial interests may sometimes outweigh loyalty or respect for the platforms that helped him rise. The walkout, therefore, was not merely about taking off a jacket or needing a bathroom break. It symbolized how fame can change a person. Once a certain level is reached, every choice revolves around image, power, and keeping certain doors open. With the subsequent circulation of blurred party clips and resurfaced statements, people began to view Ross as someone operating in circles where secrecy and quiet deals are prioritized above all else.
And Ross, which they good buddies, okay? They're gay.
Who?
Both. Diddy and Ross. And Khaled. They're all gay.
DC Young Fly's strong reaction did more than simply highlight Rick Ross's perceived disrespect. It opened a wider conversation about how success can transform an individual and how some artists choose alliances based on power rather than community loyalty. Within the hip-hop industry, a different world operates out of public view, and this is where the narrative takes an even more interesting turn. DC Young Fly did not let the situation go after calling Ross out. Instead, he released a blurred clip that immediately captured the internet's attention. This was not a typical pool party. The video showed an all-white, foam-covered private event at Ross's estate, governed by extremely strict rules, non-disclosure agreements (NDAs), a strict no-phones policy, and a rigid dress code. Everyone attending was required to follow this structure without exception. The entire setup suggested intense secrecy, and the timing amplified the suspicion. Ross had just been publicly promoting a different, open pool party, presenting it as lighthearted fun for fans. DC's introduction of the blurred, coded clip, which looked nothing like the public event Ross was selling online, immediately raised questions about the timing and intent. Why expose something so mysterious right after Ross pushed his own clean, family-friendly version of a party? When connecting the dots, the NDAs, the no-phone rule, the all-white attire, and the closed-off guest list, The Gathering, gave off the unmistakable vibe of something highly structured and exclusive. It hinted at inner circles that operate on loyalty, privacy, and unspoken rules. Online users saw more than just a party. They saw evidence of the deeper dynamics often whispered about in the hip-hop world. DC's point was not just that Ross hosted wild celebrity events, but that the atmosphere, the control, and the secrecy suggested parts of Ross's lifestyle were meant to be kept hidden from the public. Suddenly, the podcast walkout no longer felt like an isolated moment. It appeared connected to a larger pattern in which Ross moves carefully to protect his influence and keep certain exclusive spaces concealed. What DC exposed was a glimpse into a curated, guarded world that most fans never get close to. For those familiar with the culture, this level of secrecy is not entirely shocking. Years ago, Jonathan Audi, often referred to as Addy, attempted to speak on similar dynamics. Before the incident at Trump National Doral that made headlines, and before he was widely labeled as unstable, Audi made comments that sounded extreme at the time. In 2018, following the chaotic incident where he stormed the Trump resort and fired shots, Audi made claims about the music industry. He alleged that Diddy and Ross were involved in secret rituals, private invite-only parties, and closed-off environments focused on mind control vibes. He spoke of contracts and NDAs used to ensure compliance and secrecy, and he even brought up Cassie in ways that people dismissed as pure fiction. At the time, Audi was laughed off, labeled unstable, and largely ignored. Now, however, with Diddy's legal troubles, leaked party clips circulating, and strange receipts surfacing, people are replaying the information they once dismissed. The blurred foam party clip from Ross's estate is now being viewed as something similar to the exact type of scene Audi claimed existed. When Ross's private events are aligned with Audi's descriptions, the entire picture shifts. This no longer looks like simple parties for showing off wealth. It begins to look like someone operating within tight, controlled circles where rules and secrecy are paramount. People are realizing that Ross may be moving in a way consistent with protecting deep influence, connections, and substantial financial interests. The reason this situation is being described as a witch hunt vibe is not due to boredom on the internet, but because patterns are becoming undeniably clear. Ross and Diddy share a long history that extends far beyond music collaborations, including mutual business partners, endorsements, and a perpetually exclusive social circle. The details of the blurred foam party DC posted the all-white dress code, the NDAs, the no phones rule, and the restricted access line up directly with the type of setups Audi once tried to expose. What used to sound unhinged is now beginning to look like a puzzle that people are finally piecing together. The strict rules around these private events forced anyone paying attention to pause and reconsider the reality of the situation.
I really didn't know it was a big deal when I didn't finish that interview. 85 South, they're my little homies, so this is what I need y'all to do. Hit the homies up and let them know Rose will finish the interview.
Access to these events was highly restricted, and everything that occurred was tightly managed. When those blurred clips are examined closely, the energy feels unusual, the way people move, the room's configuration, and the overall atmosphere prompts more questions than answers. When Audi's old claims are factored in, the details begin to align in a way that was not apparent years ago. He spoke of secret rituals, NDAs, contracts, and tightly controlled environments involving both Diddy and Ross. Though he was dismissed at the time, clips like DC's foam party footage circulating now make his story relevant to a much larger discussion. It's as if puzzle pieces that once seemed nonsensical have suddenly clicked into place. This leads directly to the massive fallout surrounding Diddy, one of the biggest moguls in modern music, the face of Bad Boy Records, and a man who built an empire on influence and networking. Diddy has been dealing with serious legal consequences connected to long-standing allegations. Earlier this year, he appeared in federal court in New York, facing a list of charges related to misconduct. After months of headlines, statements, and legal battles, he was found not guilty on the major conspiracy-related accusations. However, he was found guilty on 2 counts related to improper transportation under the Mann Act. The legal proceedings were complex, but the outcome was definitive. Due to the findings and his past record involving domestic issues, he was denied bail and was moved directly into pretrial detention. At his sentencing on the 3rd of October 2025, the judge handed down a sentence of 50 months in federal custody, followed by supervised release and a $500,000 financial penalty. This amounts to over 4 years behind bars, plus years of monitoring afterward. For someone who once dominated the industry, this shift is monumental. The court's decisions didn't just end Diddy's career. They fundamentally changed how people view the exclusive industry circles he was connected to. The case against him was built on allegations tied to Cassie and another woman, combined with claims related to the Combs enterprise, painting a troubling picture of pressure, intimidation, and the misuse of influence. The conviction shows that the system ultimately held him accountable for significant wrongdoing, establishing a legal result that will follow him for years. This is where the narrative loops back to Rick Ross. Ross and Diddy have been connected for years through the same social circles, events, and closed-door environments. The very secrecy, NDAs, invite-only situations, and blurred clips people are discussing suddenly feel much heavier in the current climate. If federal investigators choose to widen their scope and examine individuals who were part of those restrictive environments, it would not be surprising for Ross's name to surface. This is why fans online are speculating. If someone as powerful as Diddy can face full legal scrutiny, Ross could easily find himself under the same microscope. The message is clear. No matter how big your name is, nobody is completely out of reach. Those private parties, secret moves, tight rules behind closed doors, and the shadow use of influence can all eventually be exposed. Diddy's situation serves as a powerful warning that power cannot shield you forever. While Ross has effectively controlled his public image, if certain receipts ever surface fully, his legacy could be challenged in ways the public has not yet seen. This is why the entire saga involving Ross, DC Young Fly, and the blurred party footage feels bigger than mere entertainment content. It's a look into how the top tier of the industry operates and what happens when secrets start coming to light. The new level of scrutiny. Secretive celebrity events have always existed, often governed by NDAs and no-phone policies. That is simply how high-level networking works. However, when figures like Rick Ross and Diddy host these gatherings, the stakes are higher because their circles are vast and influence culture, business, and the entire entertainment landscape. These are not small, casual parties. They are events filled with A-listers, investors, and brand owners. When DC Young Fly posted the blurred phone party clip detailing NDAs, all-white attire, and a tightly controlled setting, it instantly prompted fans to dig deeper. They slowed the footage, checked wristbands, watched guest movements, and studied the shadows. They were trying to decipher the kind of private world Ross and Diddy were truly hosting. When events are this controlled and the people involved have huge reputations, secrecy rapidly transforms into suspicion. Diddy's current federal custody and the ensuing backlash serve as a sharp reminder of how quickly things can shift when powerful circles cross certain lines. If Ross is not careful, he could face the same outcome. All the recent elements, the 85 South walkout, the blurred party clip, and ODDI's resurfaced claims stack up into a narrative that casts Ross as unpredictable, dismissive, and potentially hiding more than he lets on. In hip-hop, perception is everything. In this era, one viral clip can reshape an entire career, causing brand deals and industry relationships to be questioned quickly. By calling Ross out publicly, DC Young Fly gave the narrative new weight. Instead of clearly addressing the situation, Ross chose to keep things quiet. Ross's silence allowed fans and insiders to fill in the gaps themselves. The walkout, the private events, the blurred footage, and the old allegations all start to look connected once everything is aligned. People are now left wondering whether Ross is simply moving strategically or if he is keeping something significantly larger under wraps. The truth is that legacy is not measured only by hit records or money earned. It is shaped by respect, credibility, and how the next generation views an artist's choices. Right now, Ross is balancing all three in a precarious way. DC Young Fly's clips have shaken his carefully curated public image and opened the door to questions that will not easily fade. Social media magnifies every rumor, old clip, and quiet moment, and industry insiders are certainly paying attention to that energy. One more unexpected moment, one more leak, and the entire narrative could shift again. Ross could either emerge as a respected legend or be seen as someone who got too close to powerful circles and whose behind-the-scenes movements overshadowed the work he built his name on. The stakes are immense. Future collaborations, sponsorship deals, media relationships, and even how history ultimately frames Ross's career are all currently in a gray zone. Ross's next steps will decide whether he stays in control of his narrative or becomes another example of how quickly the culture can turn when secrecy begins to look suspicious. With the atmosphere around him growing more intense, every clip, every detail, and every quiet move is being scrutinized. How he handles this pivotal moment could define his entire future in the music game.